Well, anyone that knows me knows that I am horrible at following directions. I mean, even if you handed me a map, I would probably mess that up. I mean, I can't even follow the voice of a GPS. That's how bad at directions I am. In fact, I was so bad at directions that my dad actually bought me a compass when I was a teenager because I used to like to go hunting in the woods. I would go into the woods one way, and then I would leave my car parked somewhere and I would be 5 miles away from where I parked the car. I mean, that's how bad I am at following directions. Is there anyone else here today like me? You're like really bad at following directions? Oh, yeah. Well, you know, there's another person that was horrible at following directions in the Bible, and his name is Achan. In fact, as we will see in the scriptures, Achan was so bad at following directions that it caused the entire nation of Israel to experience the agony of defeat. Now, the context of this passage in Joshua 7 was that Ai was a very small town, and they should have easily defeated this little town. Israel should have had an easy victory. I mean, after all, they had just defeated the walled city of Jericho. God had given them great victory as they marched around the city of Jericho, and the walls came tumbling down. It is clear that God gave Israel specific directions before moving upon Jericho in Joshua chapter 6 and verse 18. This is what the scripture says. But you, keep yourselves from the things devoted to destruction, lest when you have devoted them, you take any of the devoted things and make the camp of Israel a thing for destruction and bring trouble upon it. You see, after the walls of Jericho fell and the battle was won, I don't know what Israel was doing. Perhaps they were just sitting back and relaxing and congratulating themselves on a very successful campaign. But as we will see in a moment, there is a transition that takes place between chapter 6 and chapter 7. And this transition will lead them from the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. When we read the last verse of chapter 6, we get a sense of success and complete victory for Joshua and the children of Israel. Chapter 6 and verse 27 says, "So the Lord was with Joshua, and his fame was in all the land." But then we read in the first verse of chapter 7, and we notice that it begins with a dreadful, gloomy, transitional word, but. Chapter 7 and verse 1, "But the people of Israel broke faith in regard to the devoted things. For Achan, the son of Carmi, son of Zabdi, son of Zerah, of the tribe of Judah, took some of the devoted things. And the anger of the Lord burned against the people of Israel." You see, the reason that God's anger burned against Israel was because of one person who did not follow directions. And what we have to keep in mind about Joshua chapter 7 and verse 1 is that it gives us access to information that Joshua did not yet have at this present time. It is as though God is taking us behind the scenes and setting the stage for what is about to follow in the rest of the story in order to give us insight into what's happening here at Ai. And so, the title of the message It may seem to sound a little strange to some of you. The title, From Victory to Defeat. Wow, that's a real inspiring title, isn't it? From Victory to Defeat. In fact, maybe you thought that your message notes today was a misprint, and you were thinking, maybe it should be how to go from defeat to victory. And you might be sitting there saying, wait a minute, Pastor Dave, I have enough wrong. I already know how to live in defeat. I need to know how to live in victory. But listen to me today, friend. Sometimes we can't experience lasting victory until we understand how we came to a place of defeat. So let's look and understand how Achan's sin turned Israel's victory into defeat. What are the lessons that we can learn from Achan's sin? Well, we will learn that sin always looks attractive, number one. Number two, we will learn that sin always affects other people, not just ourselves. And finally, we will learn that sin will always be exposed. Let's tackle the first point today. The first lesson that we learn is that sin is always attractive. Sin always looks attractive to us, doesn't it? After Joshua confronts Achan about his disobedience to the Lord's command, Achan says in verse 21, listen to what he says. When I saw among the spoil a beautiful cloak from Shinar, and 200 shekels of silver, and a bar of gold weighing 50 shekels, then I coveted them and took them. And see, they are hidden in the earth inside my tent with the silver underneath. Did you notice those three little words that led to Achan's downfall? Notice what he says. He says, I saw, I coveted, and I took. I saw, I coveted, and I took. Now, friends, that is the progression for every temptation in life. Listen to it. I saw, I coveted, and I took. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? I saw, I coveted, I took. We're all tempted in the same way. In fact, from the beginning of time in the garden with Adam and Eve, in Genesis chapter 3 and verse 6, listen to what it says. When the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was a delight to the eyes, and that the tree was to be desired, to be coveted, to make one wise, what did she do? She took of its fruit and ate, and also gave it to her husband who was with her, and he ate. Notice the progression. She saw, she coveted, and she took. We see another example of this in the life of King David when he committed adultery with Bathsheba. You know the story. He saw Bathsheba in a compromising situation upon the roof of a house. He coveted, he desired what he saw, and we know that he took what did not belong to him. He saw, he coveted, he took. And of course, we know the consequence of King David's sin. We certainly know the consequence of Adam and Eve's sin. That they experienced separation from God and even spiritual death that spread to all humanity. Now, friend, beware of the progression of temptation. Since the Garden of Eden, Satan has been using the same methods to tempt mankind. It's the appeal to the eyes, It's the desire of the flesh and the pride of life. It will always lead to our downfall, as it did with Achan here at Ai. I saw, I coveted, and I took. That's the thing about sin. It always looks attractive. What's another lesson that we can learn from Achan's sin at Ai? How do we go from victory to defeat? Well, time's up. You'll have to tune in one day when I actually preach this message for real. God bless you. Thank you for listening.